My girlfriend's son framed me and got me arrested. Now the truth is out, and she's begging me to drop the charges I filed. Hey guys. I thought about venting here a bit. Okay, so this whole mess started about a year and a half ago. I'm 39, male, and I met this girl Sarah, 35, female, at this work conference thing. We hit it off pretty quick and started dating. Honestly, things were going great, like really great. She had this kid from a previous relationship, and I'm not going to lie, I was kind of nervous about that at first, because I'd never dated someone with a kid before. Her son, Tommy, was 7, a smart kid, a bit shy, but we got along pretty well. His real dad was this total loser who kept going in and out of prison, so I guess I ended up being, like, the only stable guy in the kid's life. Not that I was trying to be his dad or anything. We were more like friends. He'd show me his video games, tell me about school, normal kid stuff. I work in finance. Got a pretty good job that I worked my a-hole off to get, company car, nice benefits, the whole deal. Sarah was working as an admin assistant, not making much, but trying her best with Tommy. I started helping out here and there, nothing major at first, just, like, groceries sometimes, or getting the kid some school stuff he needed. They lived in this tiny apartment in a kind of rough area. The heating barely worked in winter, and their neighbors were always fighting and stuff. Sarah kept saying she wanted to move but couldn't afford anything better. I had this nice 4-bedroom house in a good area, and yeah, I started thinking maybe they could move in. We'd been together over a year at this point, things were solid. It made sense to take that next step. Tommy was doing good in school but struggling a bit with math, so I'd help him with homework sometimes. The kid was actually pretty bright, just needed someone to explain stuff properly. His teachers even said his grades were getting better. Sarah would always make this big deal about it, saying how great I was with him, how he'd never had anyone take an interest in his schoolwork before. I got to say though, it felt good, like really good. I never had kids of my own. I can't have them, actually, found that out years ago. So having this kid look up to me, get excited to show me his good grades and stuff, it meant a lot. And Sarah seemed so grateful for everything, always saying how I'd changed their lives. We had this routine going. I'd come over after work, we'd all have dinner together, help Tommy with homework, maybe watch a movie or something. Normal family stuff, Sometimes on weekends, we'd go to the park or the movies. Sarah started talking about maybe quitting her job if we moved in together, said she could spend more time with Tommy, maybe even go back to school herself. It all sounded pretty good to me. I mean, I had the space, I was doing well at work, and they were basically already spending most weekends at my place anyway. Looking back now, I was such an idiot. Like everything seemed so perfect. Single mom working hard to give her kid a better life, sweet. Kid who just needed a positive male role model. Me thinking I'm this great guy helping them out. Classic setup, right? But when you're in it, when you're watching this kid grow and thinking you were making a difference in someone's life, you don't see the red flags. I remember this one time Tommy had this school presentation. His dad had promised to come, even told the kid he'd take him for pizza after. Of course he never showed. Tommy was trying so hard not to cry. I ended up taking him for that pizza anyway. Told him how proud I was of his presentation. The way that kid smiled, man, that stuff feels real, Makes it hard to believe it was all part of some plan. We were even talking about maybe taking a proper holiday together that summer. Tommy had never been abroad, and Sarah found this really good deal for a week in Spain. I was going to pay for most of it, but she insisted on contributing what she could. That's another thing that made it all seem legit. She never just took handouts, always tried to pay her way when she could. But yeah, that's how it all started before it turned into an absolute love show. So, things started getting weird about 3 months before everything went to hell. Looking back now, I can see how Sarah was setting everything up. But at the time, I was too stupid to notice. It started with her getting really interested in my work stuff. Like, really interested. She'd ask all these questions about our computer systems, how we handle client data, security protocols and stuff. I thought she was just showing interest in my job, maybe thinking about getting into finance herself. What an idiot I was. She started having these emergencies with her laptop. Would ask to use mine to check her email or do some online banking. Always when I was around at first, but then she'd find reasons to use it when I was in the shower or making dinner. I should have noticed how she'd close everything super fast when I walked back in the room. Then she got real sneaky about my phone, started saying stuff like, "Oh babe, can you show me those holiday pictures again?" Or, "Let me add my new work number to your contacts." Small stuff that didn't seem weird at the time, but she was watching me put in my passcode every time. The money stuff ramped up too. She'd been having these temporary money problems for a while, always with a good reason, always promising to pay me back. But around this time, she started talking about combining our finances, said it would be easier since we were planning to move in together anyway. She started dropping hints about adding her name to my accounts, just in case something happens to you for Tommy's sake. One day, I caught her taking pictures of some papers in my home office. She played it off real smooth, said Tommy wanted to draw me something, but needed to know how to spell my full name and address properly. She even showed me this cute card he made later. Man, she got Tommy involved too, but in this really subtle way. The kid started having all these school projects that needed expensive supplies or suddenly needed a new laptop for his schoolwork. Always stuff that made me look like the bad guy if I said no. What kind of person refuses to help a kid with his education, right? The worst part was how she used my own work schedule against me. She knew I had this big project coming up, was going to be working late a lot. She started setting up all these family dinners, and saying how Tommy was so sad he barely saw me anymore. Made me feel guilty for working so much. She even started messing with my friend circle, would make little comments about how my best mate, Dave, seemed a bit off with her, or how my sister didn't really like Tommy. Just planting these tiny seeds of doubt, getting me to trust her more than anyone else. She also started showing up at my office with lunch sometimes, got to know the receptionist. Always super friendly with everyone, building up this image of the perfect girlfriend. She even had Tommy make Christmas cards for my team. Everyone thought she was amazing. My boss used to joke about when I was going to make an honest woman of her. Then there was this weird thing with my mail. I started noticing some stuff wasn't arriving. Bank statements, credit card bills, that kind of thing. She'd volunteered to get my mail when I was working late. Her idea. Said the postman was leaving stuff in the wrong boxes. Probably just got lost. She even helped me set up paperless billing to solve the problem. Yeah, real helpful. She made it all seem so natural, so inevitable, like we were just moving toward this perfect future together. And I wanted to believe it. I wanted to believe that I had finally found something real, that this family we were building wasn't just in my head. But there were moments, tiny fleeting moments, where something felt off. A weird tightness in my chest when she'd bring up finances, a split second of hesitation in her voice when she'd talk about our forever. I'd shake it off, tell myself I was just being paranoid, that I was overthinking things. After all, wasn't this what I wanted? A family? A place where I truly belonged? I ignored the nagging feeling, let myself get swept up in the dream she was spinning. And that was my biggest mistake. The last few weeks before everything went down, I noticed how Tommy started calling me Dad by accident. Sarah and I would talk about our future, making all these plans. We even started looking at rings online. I was enjoying these moments, never expected what would come next. Everything went sideways one Tuesday morning. I remember being in this big team meeting, presenting some quarterly numbers to my colleagues. My phone kept buzzing in my pocket, but I ignored it. I was in the middle of this important presentation. As soon as the meeting finished, I checked my phone. 4 missed calls from reception. Weird, but not panic-worthy. I figured maybe Sarah had tried to drop off lunch or something. I was heading back to my office when I saw them. 2 police officers talking to my boss outside his office. Even then, I didn't think it was about me. Funny how your brain works. My boss saw me and got this really weird look on his face, called me over. The police officers turned around, and I can still feel that moment. In my gut. You know that feeling when your whole world just stops? Everything goes quiet and slow, like you're underwater. They started saying something about needing to ask me some questions. I remember nodding, thinking there must be some mistake. Then they started reading me my rights in the middle of my office, in front of everyone. I looked at my boss, like maybe he'd say something, stop this madness, but he just looked away. The walk from my office to the police car was the longest of my life. People were staring, someone was filming on their phone. I kept thinking about my presentation like, I need to finish explaining those numbers. Stupid, right? Your whole life is falling apart. And you're worried about work stuff. They put me in this interview room at the station and told me why I was there. The words they used, I can't even write them. About Tommy. About what they were saying I did to him. I threw up right there in the interview. The officers had to stop the interview while they got someone to clean up. I kept saying they had it wrong, that I'd never hurt Tommy, that I loved that kid. They just kept asking the same questions over and over. When was the last time I was alone with him? Had anyone else ever expressed concerns? Was I ever inappropriate with him? Each question made me feel sicker than the last. 12 hours, that's how long they kept me there. 12 hours of the same questions, different officers, same accusations, no phone, no contact with anyone, just me in that room, trying to understand how my life had turned into this nightmare. When they finally let me out on bail, I couldn't go home. Part of the conditions, no contact with Sarah or Tommy. Had to stay away from their home and school. Had to give them my passport, like I was some kind of criminal. They took my work laptop, my phone, said they needed to check them for evidence. I ended up at this cheap hotel near the station. I couldn't face calling any friends yet. What would I even say? Hey mate, I've been accused of the worst thing imaginable. Mind if I crash on your couch? The hotel clerk looked at me weird when I checked in. Probably because I was still in my work clothes from that morning, looking like I'd aged about 20 years. That first night was, I don't even know how to describe it. I kept having these panic attacks, couldn't sleep, kept thinking about Tommy, about Sarah. Were they okay? Was Tommy scared? Did Sarah really believe I could do something like that? Every time I closed my eyes, I saw my colleagues' faces as I was led out of the office. The next morning my boss called, said they were putting me on gardening leave while everything got sorted out. His voice was different, professional, like we hadn't worked together for 5 years. Like we hadn't gone to each other's barbecues, celebrated promotions together. I also started noticing people unfriending me on social media. Colleagues, friends, even some family members. Nobody asked for my side of the story, just dropped me, just like that. Years of friendships gone in hours. The worst part? I couldn't even be angry at them, because if someone told me this about someone else, I'd probably react the same way. That's what makes these accusations so destructive, even if you're innocent. Just being accused changes how everyone sees you forever. I tried to get money out to pay for the hotel, and my card got declined. I checked my banking app. Account was frozen, pending investigation. I had to call my sister, tell her everything, beg her to lend me some cash. She helped, but I could hear it in her voice, that tiny bit of doubt. Her own brother, and there was still that what if. That's how my life fell apart in less than 24 hours. I went from respected professional to nothing. No home, no access to my money, no friends, just sitting in a cheap hotel room, watching my phone light up with more people unfriending me, waiting to find out if I'd ever get my life back. You know that movie Castaway with Tom Hanks? That's what it felt like, except instead of being on some tropical island, I was stuck in this crappy hotel room, watching my whole life implode. My work situation got worse real quick. HR sent this email about a formal review meeting to discuss my position within the company. Translation: they were looking for a way to fire me without getting sued. Didn't matter that I hadn't been convicted of anything, just being accused was enough to make them want me gone. I started noticing how people treated me differently. Like, I went to my local shop one morning, same place I'd been going for years. The owner, this old guy who usually chats about football with me, he just stared at the floor, wouldn't even look at me. Guess news travels fast in a small town. My colleagues, man, that hurt. These people I'd worked with for years, gone for drinks with, been to their weddings and kids' birthday parties, they all just disappeared. My phone used to buzz all day with work group chats and messages. Now, nothing. Dead silence. Even my best mate, Dave, known him since uni, sent this message saying he needed some space to process things, like I was the one who betrayed him. The police interviews were the worst. They'd call me in randomly, ask the same questions over and over, always trying to trip me up, catch me in a lie. But how do you prove you didn't do something? Every answer just made me sound more guilty to them. My lawyer, had to get one, cost me almost all my savings, kept saying to document everything, keep records, said we needed to build a case. But a case for what? My life was already in pieces. Even if I proved my innocence, how do you come back from something like this? Some days, I'd drive past Tommy's school, just to torture myself, I guess. I'd see all these parents picking up their kids, living their normal lives. Me, meanwhile, I couldn't go within 500 meters of him because of the bail conditions. The kid I used to help with homework, who I took to football practice, who made me those Stupid world's best almost dad cards. Now I was legally banned from even seeing him. I had this meeting with HR and my boss about my position. They sat there with these fake sympathetic faces, talking about company reputation and duty of care to other employees, like I was some kind of threat. 5 years I'd given that company, won them awards, brought in big clients, none of it mattered now. My sister tried to help, bless her, would bring me food, clean clothes, but I could see it wearing her down too. The whispers from her friends, the awkward questions. One day she broke down crying, asked me if I was sure I didn't do anything inappropriate, even by accident. That's when I realized, if my own sister had doubts, what hope did I have with anyone else? Eventually, one day, everything changed. I was sitting in that hotel room, right, been there almost 3 weeks now, when my phone rings. It's the police station. My heart starts doing that crazy pounding thing again. Every time they called before, it was to drag me in for more questioning. But this time, it's different. The officer, the same guy who arrested me, says they need me to come in, but his voice is different, not hostile-like. So I drag myself down there, expecting another 6 hours of the same questions. But instead, they take me to this different room, more like an office. Then this detective comes in and starts talking real careful, like he's picking his words super carefully. Says they've had new information and developments in the case. I'm sitting there thinking, great, what now? What else could they possibly accuse me of? That's when he drops it. Tommy admitted he made it up. Just like that. Apparently he broke down during an interview and told them the truth. But here's where it gets really messed up. He told them who really hurt him. It wasn't me, it was his cousin, Sarah's nephew. The kid's only 12 himself. I just sat there, couldn't even speak, like my brain couldn't process what I was hearing. The detective's still talking, saying something about how children sometimes displace trauma. How Tommy was scared to accuse his cousin because it would cause family problems. All I could think was, I'm innocent, they know I'm innocent. They gave me this official letter saying all charges were dropped, just a piece of paper, but man, it felt like I was holding my life back in my hands. But then the detective says something that made my blood freeze. He mentions they found some other concerning elements during their investigation, asked if I'd noticed any unusual activity with my accounts. That's when everything clicked. All those times Sarah used my laptop, the missing mail, the weird charges I'd noticed but ignored because I trusted her. With shaking hands, I pulled up my banking app right there in front of the detective, started going through transactions I hadn't been able to access while everything was frozen. Holy love, there were transfers I'd never made, credit cards I'd never applied for, loans in my name I knew nothing about. She'd been setting this up for months, used the accusations as a smokescreen, while she drained everything she could get her hands on. She even tried to refinance my house. Paperwork was pending when I got arrested. The detective said they'd found evidence on her phone, texts to someone, about getting everything in place before the accusations happened. She knew. She knew what her nephew had done to Tommy, and instead of protecting her son, she used it as an opportunity to destroy me. I sat there in that office for hours, making statements, signing papers. They said they'd investigate the fraud, but honestly, I didn't even care about the money anymore. All I could think about was Tommy, this poor kid, hurt by someone he trusted, then manipulated by his own mother into accusing an innocent person. I had this moment where I nearly threw up again. Remembered all those times Sarah would leave Tommy with her sister's family, saying it was good for him to spend time with his cousin. She knew, she had to have known what was happening, but she was so focused on her plan, on setting me up, that she let it keep happening. When I finally left the station, I just sat in my car and cried. Not even sad crying, just this weird, empty feeling. Everything I'd lost, my reputation, my job, my friends, and for what? So Sarah could use her own kid's trauma as a cover for stealing from me. I started getting messages from her then, probably heard the charges were dropped. The first one was this long paragraph about how sorry she was, how she did it because she was desperate, how she still loved me. Then another saying how she'd pay me back, she just needed time. Then one begging me not to press charges because think about Tommy. That last one got me, using her kid again, even now. Tommy, who'd been through hell, who she forced to lie to the police, who she used as a pawn in her sick game. That's when the anger really hit. Not for what she did to me, though that was bad enough, but for what she did to her own son. I called my lawyer right there from the car park, told him everything. He started talking about civil suits, criminal charges, restraining orders. But all I could think about was Tommy. I asked if there was any way to make sure he got help, real help, without me having to see Sarah again. The detective called again that evening, said they'd picked Sarah up for questioning about the fraud, said she broke down, admitted everything, claimed she did it because she had gambling debts, people threatening her, always an excuse, right? But then he told me something that made everything even worse. This wasn't her first time doing this. There were other guys, other accusations, other cities. Tommy wasn't even her only kid. She had another one she'd lost custody of years ago, and just like that, her whole desperate single mom act started falling apart. When she got to court, she tried to sell the sob story, crying about how she was just trying to give Tommy a better life, how she had no choice, how she never meant for things to go this far. It might have worked if she wasn't a serial scammer. 3 of her exes came forward then. She'd pulled the same stunts on all of them, with proof. One nearly lost his house, another was falsely accused of abuse, and the last went bankrupt trying to support her. Then the prosecution played the recording, her laughing about how men are so easy to control. She went pale. The courtroom gasped. Her lawyer had nothing. Then came the final blow. The judge asked why. If she was so desperate, she had wired thousands to an online casino just weeks before my arrest. The prosecution pulled up bank records, straight from my stolen accounts. Her lawyer stammered. She broke down. And for the first time she realized she was done. She tried one last move, begging, playing the victim, claiming she was just a mother who wanted the best for her son. The judge didn't even flinch. A good mother doesn't use her child as a weapon. 4 years, no parole, no leniency. As she was led away, she tried to make eye contact with me, like I was supposed to forgive her, like I was supposed to save her. I didn't. She mouthed, "Please, maybe help me." I turned my back and walked out, but my whole body went cold. All the stories about Tommy's dad being in prison, about her struggling as a single mom, about her terrible ex who abandoned them, how many of those were lies? How much of the person I thought I knew was real? After that, something in me just snapped. Not in a violent way, but more like I finally woke up. All that confusion and depression turned into this cold, focused anger. I decided I wasn't going to be her victim anymore. So, I hired the best fraud lawyer I could find, maxed out my last clean credit card to pay for it, but it was worth every penny. The guy took one look at my case and actually smiled, said Sarah had made some amateur mistakes in her paper trail that would make this easy. Remember that detective who told me about her past victims? Well, I had my lawyer contact them. Turns out Sarah had a pattern. She'd done similar stuff in 3 other cities. Always targeted successful guys. Always used her kid as part of the con. But she'd always managed to skip town before things got too hot. Not this time. I gave the police everything. Every email, every text, every bank statement, those pictures she took of my documents. She wasn't as tech-savvy as she thought. They still had the original metadata showing exactly when and where they were taken. My lawyer called it a perfect fraud case. Then I went after my company. See, while I was sitting in that hotel room thinking my life was over, I'd been making notes of every conversation, every email, every meeting. Documented how they treated me before any conviction, how they were trying to force me out. When my lawyer saw it, he actually laughed, said they'd violated about 6 different employment laws. I had this meeting with HR and the regional manager brought my lawyer along. You should have seen their faces when he walked in. Suddenly, all that talk about protecting the company's reputation disappeared. Funny how quick they changed their tune when they realized I could sue them for unfair dismissal and discrimination. The best part? Sarah tried to contact me again, crying about how she was sorry, how she'd pay me back, how she needed help. I didn't respond, just forwarded every message to my lawyer and the police. Each desperate message just dug her hole deeper. Then I found out she'd started bad-mouthing me on social media, playing the victim. Perfect. My lawyer said that was exactly what we wanted. More evidence of defamation. Every post, every comment, every lie she told, just made our case stronger. Remember those friends who ghosted me? They started crawling back once the truth came out. Dave, my supposed best mate, tried to act like nothing happened. Just looking out for the kids, mate, he said. Yeah, well, looking out for your mate of 15 years might have been good too. I blocked his number. Found out Sarah had been lying to Tommy about his real dad too. The guy wasn't in prison, she just kept them apart with false accusations. My lawyer helped me get evidence to his father's attorney. Now she's facing interference with custody on top of everything else. My company settled out of court, full back pay, hefty compensation for the emotional distress, and a glowing reference for my next job. They even offered to keep me on with a promotion, but by then, I was done with that. Tommy's with his dad now, getting proper counseling. I sent him a letter through his therapist, told him none of this was his fault, that he's just a kid caught up in Sarah's games. Not sure if he'll ever read it, but it felt right. So yeah, I'm writing this after 6 months since everything went down. 6 months since Sarah got sentenced, since Tommy went to live with his dad, since I started putting my life back together. First off, Sarah's in prison now, 4 years, probably serve 2 if she behaves. Her family tried reaching out to me after the sentencing apparently. Had no idea about her past, about the other guys she'd scammed. Sure they didn't. I blocked their numbers too. The situation's still messy. Insurance covered about 60% of what she stole, but I'm still fighting to get the rest back. My lawyer says we might be able to get some from her family. Turns out they were keeping some of her earnings for her. Karma's funny like that. The work stuff actually turned out okay. After the settlement, I used some of the money to start my own consulting business, working from home mostly, picking my own clients. Pay's not as good as my old job yet, but I don't have to deal with office politics or people whispering behind my back. The hardest part was dealing with Tommy's letter. The kid wrote to me from his new home with his dad. His therapist helped him write it, you could tell, because it was all proper and formal. Not like the notes he used to leave on my fridge. Said he was sorry for lying, that his mom told him he had to do it or bad people would hurt them. Said he missed me. I wrote back. Took me like 20 drafts to get it right. Told him none of it was his fault, that he was just a kid caught up in adult problems. Said I hoped he was doing better with his dad, that I was glad he was getting help. I didn't promise to stay in touch though. Some doors are better left closed, you know. I had to move cities in the end. Too many memories, too many people who knew the story but not the truth. Found this nice place up north, near the coast. Different scene, different people. Nobody here knows me as that guy who got accused or Sarah's ex. I'm just the new guy who works in finance and goes running on the beach. Dating again? Nah, not yet. I got some trust issues to work through first. Plus, single moms are definitely off the table for a while, maybe forever. Call it trauma, call it learning from experience, whatever. Funny thing is, some good actually came from all this. Made me realize who my real friends were, like my sister. She stuck by me, even when she had doubts. And this guy, Mark, from my old rugby club, he was the only one who actually asked for my side of the story before judging. They're the only ones from my old life I still talk to. The other day, I was going through some old boxes, found those Father's Day cards Tommy made me. Nearly threw them out, but ended up keeping them. Not because I missed those times, now I know. They weren't even real, but as a reminder to trust my gut next time something feels off. Sarah still tries to contact me sometimes. Got her sister to pass me a letter last month, saying she's changed in prison and wants to make amends. The return address went straight in the bin. Some people don't deserve second chances, and that's where things stand now. Life's different, but not all bad. Got my own business, new city, fresh start. Still got some trust issues to work through. Still jump a bit when my phone rings with an unknown number, but I'm getting there. I think the biggest lesson from all this is that sometimes the happy ending isn't getting everything back to how it was. Sometimes it's about building something new from the wreckage, something that's maybe not as shiny, but is stronger, more real.